how many cores were performed in order to evaluate the site for economic feasibility in your due diligence study?
41.
Why did you feel like 41 cores were needed in order to characterize the site for economic feasibility?
Geologists always want more data than we like to have. Part of the intent of the due diligence coring is not only to determine the quality of the material, but also to define the quantity. That's a really important fact for us to know before we make an investment. And that means we have to be able to accurately map the top and the bottom of the rock that's suitable for us to mine. We have to be able to calculate the volume between two surfaces. So we need more data points to accurately map that bottom and top of the rock.
And at 1,500-acre site, do you feel like 3 holes represents the silica content throughout the Edwards Formation at this site?
I think the sampling method that we used to collect the sample for the silica analysis is entirely appropriate.
Do you
For
think
that purpose.
Do you think that is representative of the silica, crystalline silica concentration in the Edwards Formation throughout this 1,500-acre site?
I think the sample, yes, that we submitted and analyzed is representative of the efforts that we mine.
But you only looked at 3 different locations within 1,500 acres.
Your Honor, that's a question you can ask.
So, how often were samples taken within each core used for crystalline silica evaluation?
On those 3 cores on 10-foot intervals of depth.
And was that, how big a sample was taken every 10 feet?
There was just a discrete sample taken at a 10-foot spacing.
And is that discrete sample in the size of 1 to 3 inches?
Right, it would be somewhere in that size. I think it says exactly how much.
So if we were to look, so you looked at 2 inches out of 10 feet is the samples you took.
That's correct.
And then you, as I understand it, mixed those samples together to form a composite sample.
That's correct.
And then you took only part of that composite sample to determine the crystalline silica content.
That was split into a smaller bomb. Yes.
So what was the total volume of material actually tested to determine crystalline silica content?
And keeping the volume that's actually submitted for X-ray diffraction, you would have to look at the NIOSH method for that. It's a small volume. You have to remember those tests are extremely sensitive. So you don't need a lot of volume to be analyzed. What you need to be sure of is that the volume that you do analyze is representative of the whole.
Now, did you review in the process of your work on this project any photographs of the cores?
For this testimony,
In the process of your work on this project, did you review photographs of the cores?
by this project, do you mean our due diligence effort, or do you mean preparing for this testimony?
Yes, in association with your work on this site and the development of this rock crusher proposal, the project to install, did you review photographs of cores performed at this site?
I was involved, part of my responsibility, to our Southwest Division, I was involved in this due diligence effort from the beginning. I can't honestly say I've seen all of the 4 photos, I had access to them. I
association with the proposed quarry and rock crusher at this site, did you review any boring logs associated with this site?
As part of the due diligence effort, I did, not relevant to this investment, not relevant to collection of samples or the analysis of silicon.
Did you review any other documents associated with the subsurface investigation at this site beyond photographs and boring logs?
In preparation for this testimony, only these items here. As part of the due diligence, I reviewed everything that you planned, decision was made. But reference to these samples of silicon, I didn't rely on any of that.
You know, I have an exhibit, I guess I'll have this marked as exhibit 502. Ambrose. Just back. I've now placed in front of you what's been marked as exhibit 501. 501. Let me represent to you, this is a privilege log produced by Vulcan in this matter listing certain documents. Could you look with me at page 3 of this document? Under description, are these full RD1? What does that nomenclature stand for?
The RT1,
RD1.
that's how we identify a specific coral.
And what does RD stand for?
I think it probably stood for red deer, although the driller was not against it. Had two drill crews, and so that RD designates the holes that make a particular crew.
And we look at this, we have RD1 through RD. 19. So does that represent 19 different holes that were dug or completed? And then looking at item number 263, we have photos from hole B-1 216. And what is that nomenclature?
That's our other drill crew.
Okay.
Like, so we had two crews work.
And so that goes through B-22 at item 525, correct?
That's correct.
And so is this a different 22 holes apart from the red deer that we just looked at?
It is 19 and 22 is.
The 41, is that the 41 you referenced earlier? Were the 3 holes completed to determine silica content, any of these?
They were.
Hmm?
They were.
I'm having trouble hearing. Did you say they were or they were not?
No, they were. But to be clear, they weren't drilled for the purpose of finding silica content.
Which of these,
Again, it was a year later that we went back.
which of these holes were used to determine the silica content?
Sandy referenced the document. It was 11, 18. I don't remember the specific numbers right now, but I believe they are here in these documents.
Were they identified in your testimony?
Specific ones. I don't believe they were.
And you don't recall which of these were the 3 holes that were used?
I
each of these documents indicate if you're a photograph, as we look through items 1 through 535?
Yeah, I believe at first, the photographs of that particular wall.
And in the nature of your work on this project, did you review any of those photographs?
Not specifically for this hearing. At the time of due diligence,
And I'm asking you about your work on the project. If I'm asking specifically about your work in preparation for your testimony, I'll go ahead and make that specific. I'm asking you to work on this project. Did you review any of these photographs?
I would have either seen the cores or I had access to the photographs. I'm not gonna swear to you right now that I remember 3 years ago, I looked at every photograph.
Understandably, it's just some of these are items that you have reviewed.
Yes, certainly.
And then as we look at items 536 through 541, those are drill logs and core logs. That's what those relate to.
That's correct.
And what type of information is set forth on those drill logs and those core logs?
Those would be the logs. It's basically a record of the geologist's observations in the field. That's course.
And did you review those at any point?
I would have had access to those. Again, I'm not gonna swear 3 years ago that I remember that I saw everything in these core logs. But I had access to them. There was a lot of communication between myself and the geologist in the field that were recording these logs. Would not have been necessary for me to read everything in there and handwritten notes.
In performing your evaluations in this case, in performing your evaluations for this project, including due diligence, were you provided with these logs at any point?
I had access to them.
So is that a yes?
Yes.
And do either these photographs or these drill logs in any way form the basis of your Do these photographs or core logs in any way form the basis of your opinion that the sampling in this case was done properly?
You have to remember that we have a lot of experience with the Edwards group. We have 5 other quarries operating with the Edwards group and a 6th quarry that is no longer operating. So we have some familiarity with the amount of variation that we can expect to see both laterally across the acres and vertically from top to down. And that's really sufficient to feel comfortable with 3 holes representing that property for chemical purposes.
But I don't feel like I got an answer to my question. My question to you is, I know in your opinion, in your testimony, you expressed an opinion that the sampling in this case was done properly and is representative of the material that this crystal and silicon content at this site. My question to you is whether any of these photographs or drill logs form a basis of your opinion that the sampling program at this site was done properly.
I wouldn't say it was the sole basis of my opinion. Without that information, I would still have the same opinion that it was adequate.
But as you express it in your testimony, does this material form part of the basis of your opinion?
To the core logs that I may or may not have looked at, or the photographs that I may or may not. I feel like you're asking me to say that something I said I can't remember if I saw every photo. You're asking me if that was the basis of my opinion. And I can't swear that I saw every photo or every page of the handwritten log. What I did have was a lot of close contact with the geologist
out that we've been approaching about an hour and a half since we started having a break. Are we in a good place to take a break now?
Yes, I think this is.
Why don't we do that? It's about 1:20 now.